Hello and welcome to FightLine, brought to you in conjunction with Buy My Fight and Westbound Logistics Services. My name is Ben Doughty and I'm delighted to be joined today by former super featherweight WBO champion Barry Jones. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure, mate. I was looking forward to this.
As was I. Barry, the remit of this show, briefly, is to provide hopefully expert big fight analysis with a particular focus on the betting side of things. Yeah. I've got a lot of boxing and betting savvy people of my acquaintance who have long maintained that the bookies are not as knowledgeable about boxing as they might be about some of the other sports that they offer odds on, and they will assure you there's money to be made if you know what you're watching and what you're doing. So we're going to put that claim to the test a little bit over the next few weeks.
Well, I think obviously you make up your own mind who you want to go for, but I think if you're given an overall insight of what someone does better than others, and then you can make up you have an informed decision then before you gamble, rather than just being a big. I think a lot of generic betting sites will just make the bigger name the favourite, and that's not always the case.
Absolutely not. I've never actually asked you. Are you a gambling man? Do you like the odd flutter on boxing?
Not huge, but I do. Yeah, now and again I do. Yeah, when I fancy an upset, I then no big. No, well, I definitely do.
Looking at the weekend's action, we have, as you said, a relative rarity of three big fights that are relatively 50-50 scenarios. Starting in Philadelphia on Friday night, we have mouth-watering light heavyweight unification between Artur Beterbiev, IBF champion, and the WBC champion, let's get the pronunciation right, Alexander Dvorak.
It's a fantastic fight, and very rarely you get a fight of this magnitude so evenly matched where you could pick a winner just on how you feel in the morning. You can wake up and go, Beterbiev's going to walk right through him, or Dvorak is going to totally outbox him, and then maybe stop him later. Both can be quite relatively vulnerable, but are so. You got Beterbiev is like a bull, really is. He's just so physically strong. And push forward, flat-footed.
He does get hit.
Doesn't he get hit? And he gets caught square at times as well. And does get it. You can see a little bit of a wobble in him now and again, but he's so physically strong, and every punch he throws is not a KO shot, but it's a punch that you feel through the soles of your boots. Really rocks. You can see he hits people, and it almost makes them like rabbits in the headlights. They sort of just freeze with the power of it.
Having said that, the man in the opposite corner, Alexander Dvorak, who certainly impressed me going into the Lions' Den at the tail end of last year and taking that WBC title off Adonis Stevenson, who sadly was injured in the fight and it ended his career. But Stevenson was a bone-breaking puncher with that kind of Deontay Wilder level of reputation as one of the hardest pound-for-pound punchers in the game, and he did catch Dvorak flush on several occasions, and Dvorak was capable of boxing smartly. Looks like many of these Ukrainians, a brilliant, well-schooled Eastern European amateur-type boxer who's managed to convert that to the professional ranks. And some people say Stevenson was ahead until that 11th round stoppage. I'm not so sure about that. I thought he was genuinely in the fight very well, Dvorak.
Yeah, I think so. I think Stevenson's so erratic, and it's such long wingspans, his arms are so long, that I think for someone who's a textbook boxer, which Dvorak is very much, then you find those shots hard to read because they're coming outside of your peripheral vision, and they're all they're not. It's not basic stuff in front of you. You can easy to block and counter. So he found that quite awkward, and also Stevenson has erratic movements.
And he's a southpaw.
Southpaw as well. But I don't even think the southpaw thing would be an issue for someone like Dvorak. Being a top-class amateur, especially in this modern era, every other fighter's a southpaw. So I think they're used to it.
Isn't it true? They're not. They're so common these days.
It's not when we were fighting, literally you fight southpaw like once every 2 years, and it'd be a nightmare for you. Now they're at every tournament you're boxing 3 or 4. So I think, but it was an awkward fight for him, which he came up with flying colours. I thought he was tremendous. He's been tremendous throughout his career. He shows edges of vulnerability time to time. I feel
Dvorak?
that. I do. Yeah, I think sometimes he stays there too long and can be caught. And that's with this fight in particular against Beterbiev, that's a worry because Beterbiev can hit you. He's like a lot of the Russians and Ukrainians and them sort of type fighters, the ex-Soviet Union type fighters. Even if they're not a KO artist, they punch right through the target. Yeah. Every shot is solid, and I think that's if you get caught square or you switch off in range, then that could be sort of a good night.
Yeah, he was involved in an interesting scenario in his first defence of the WBC title, Vorjik, when he fought a guy, Dudu Ngumbu, I believe, in Philadelphia once again, if memory serves, when he was an awkward, unorthodox guy who hadn't had a lot of amateur fights, the African guy, and it was kind of inconclusive. He had a calf injury. I don't know if you saw the fight.
Yeah, it was.
And that was all she wrote. But it was a bit inconclusive from the impressive title-winning, defining performance so far against Stevenson away from home. It was a little bit hard to read, going into that fight. Beterbiev last time out. Look, he had a quick stoppage against a guy called Kalajic. Sure, well, people must forgive us for not being entirely conversant with some of these Russian pronunciations who are increasingly starting to dominate the game of boxing.
Well, in this division more than any, they're all the champions are from the...
Let's break it down for anybody who might not immediately know, and it's even harder for the diehards like myself to remember, but I believe we have Bivol, Kovalev, and these two gentlemen on the screen behind us.
Yeah, so we have 3 Russians and 1 Ukrainian.
Absolutely.
All world champions.
Sounds like the start of a joke almost.
And you would never have said that in a million years. Like, even 5 years ago, that they would be dominant.
I don't want to sidetrack too much, but I will say this. I remember Bob Arum did an interview in KO magazine in the late 80s, about 88, and he was saying that he didn't rate Ring or KO at that time as magazines and the journalists. He said, you guys don't know boxing and you don't know what you're talking about. He said, you keep writing that white guys can't fight. He said, white American guys can't fight, white Russian guys can. And what a prophecy that was.
It's funny about Arum, because Arum moved his offices from the East Coast to Las Vegas because the Hispanic market, the pay-per-view, that's the biggest pay-per-view market in the United States. And so all the Mexicans were around that area, the best fighters, all the best fighters who would draw biggest crowds, biggest TV audience, so he based himself there. And even though that's still true, obviously, with Canelo being the biggest jewel in boxing, But now, all these Russian and Ukrainian type fighters are basing themselves in the East Coast. He might start to move his offices back there, because I think ultimately, especially with there being more Ukrainians now and Russians based over in the East Coast,
Lomachenko kind of spearheading that revolution.
That might be the market where it's going to work out for them.
The other interesting thing before we look at the prices is these guys have 31 fights between them. I think you've got guys 17-0 versus the guys 14-0. Because they had such extensive world-class amateur backgrounds, it does seem to be a shortcut. People often say the amateurs don't mean a thing. That's a popular maxim. I think it's very untrue. And when you look, even a guy like Andy Ruiz, who had that solid amateur background, you see what he did against Anthony Joshua. I think it is important.
It's massive important, because that's where you learn the basics. So the hands high. You see these guys, they're very hands high, the elbows tucked in nice and tight, and they keep their shape. And that's very important. Like Beterbiev is very slow on his feet.
Yeah.
But his amateur background, stellar European champion. I think he had a silver medal in the Worlds. Who came up against Alexander Usyk a few times in the Olympics and in the World Championships. Or he might have maybe got higher medals there. So even though obviously Vodzik got the bronze in the Olympics, Beterbiev's probably got the better amateur background as it goes. But he keeps his shape well. So he can block everything as much as he can and pile forward. So when you're under pressure, that's the worst thing. They're under pressure. If you don't have that amateur background, then you fall apart.
Sure, core skills,
when you're
so very important.
Of course, yes.
Let's have a look at what the bookies are saying. Okay, forgive me. To you, I probably must seem like the epitome of physical perfection, but I must confess to a slight failing of the eyesight at nearly 50, so forgive me while I break this down quickly.
The glasses make you look a lot younger. You look 60 now.
Oh, okay, fantastic. That's the tribute coming from you. Okay, you have, for the straight win here, Beterbiev is evens with Bet365, 11-10 with Ladbrokes, similar pricing with Sky Bet, William Hill, and MBet indeed. Betfair having as evens, as the Paddy Power Sport. Coral is 11-10. Pretty much an even price for Beterbiev.
And you can understand that, because he's the guy with the only world champion at the moment active who has 100% knockout ratio. So,
yes, you mentioned that to me off camera.
So you can see that whatever happens, somewhere he's going to catch you. When he does catch you, then he's going to catch up with you.
Yeah, and we're not going to look at it this week. This is our first week. We're cutting our teeth in this with this show. But you can make money on will the fight go the distance or won't the fight go the distance without committing and nailing your colours to the mast as to the winner. That's an interesting angle that some of our viewers might want to look at, and we may do increasingly as the show goes on. The slight favourite then, Vorjik, is 10-13 with Bet365, 8-11 with Ladbrokes, same with William Hill, and the same with Sky Bet. confusing odds when you get like 79 to 100. I'm not claiming to be an odds-making expert, so I don't know what dictates that kind of long-winded logic of that price, but I'm sure we will learn together as we go on this journey.
But I can understand why Wojciech is maybe a slight favourite, if that's what it is, because he looks the more adaptable of the two, maybe, but I still think that he could make enough mistakes down the stretch.
To come a cropper, you only need to make one.
And Beterbiev will just keep coming forward. So he might be getting unboxed at times, and I'm sure he can get hurt. Yeah. But he'll just keep nicking his space. And he can do that. We've seen in the past when he won the title, I think it was the 11th round stoppage against Colling, who was a good fighter. And so he can get you late or early. So the fact that he has that power for 12 rounds makes him a real danger.
That is a factor, isn't it?
Means you have to keep that concentration for 12 rounds, which is a very hard thing to do when you're already being put under tremendous pressure.
On that note, let's talk specifics. For the points win scenario with either fighter, if we can have that on the screen now, you have Beterbiev is 3-1 with Bet365 to win on points, which is a good price, partly because of what you just said, Barry, that people fancy him for the KO if he's going to win. Similar value with Wojciech, 11-2 on points, 5-1 with Ladbrokes, same with William Hill and Sky Bet. People, I don't feel I should read all of these exhaustively out, but it gives people an overview. Now, conversely, the KO scenario, if we can get that one up. This is very good, these guys in the studio. I like the way this is flowing very well so far. 7-4 for Beterbiev to have an early shower in victorious context. You have Wojciech is 2-1. I do quite like that price because we'll talk about it in a second of what we're actually predicting here. I fancy Wojciech inside the distance to be the last man standing more than likely. As you can see, you've got prices much of a muchness there for him to do it. They're roughly 2-1.
Well, to be honest, with Wojciech, he can punch. People forget that. You think Beterbiev is the punch out the two because he has that 100% knockout ratio. But Wojciech has 40 knockouts in 17 fights, so he can obviously bang himself. And Beterbiev can square himself up. Yeah. And really can make him. He squares himself up all the time because he puts so much into his punches. Once he knows he got you hurt, that he leaves himself open. So you can see that he could possibly walk onto a big shot. But I think it's. You have to go with Beterbiev is going to be the one pushing the fight, and Wojciech is going to be the one on the outside looking to move and make himself a more difficult target to hit.
That's how I see it. Let's cut to the chase. I'm going with the better boxer, the more versatile guy of the two, and the slight betting favourite by the men who make a living out of this on this occasion. I fancy the KO. I'm deviating from this strict KO scenario. On Sky Bet, you can get 8-1 for Wojciech to win in rounds 9, 10, 11 or 12. So basically in the last third of the fight, I fancy those odds at 8-1. My tip for this week, round group betting, is Wojciech, rounds 9, 10, 11 or 12 at 8-1 with Sky Bet. Yourself?
I go the other way as it goes. I think Wojciech might be ahead. And I think Beterbiev might have to get off the floor to do it. Yeah. But I just think that physical brute strength that he has, and the fact that Wojciech can make mistakes. Yeah. And against a guy of this power and strength of Beterbiev, I think Beterbiev again from anywhere from round 7 to 10. Yeah. I think for me for the KO win.
Would you take the straight KO on this occasion? Is that what we're nailing you down
to?
Well,
I would take the KO, but if you're looking for specifics, I would say anywhere from 7 to 10. I think he gets him then.
I think perhaps a bet for you might be round group betting the simple version of 6-12, second half of the fight. Okay, yeah. I'll hold you to that. We're going to see next week, of course, how well we did. I know that you think disagreeing with me is probably about as safe a premise as you can think of.
Yeah, well, I've followed you for a while, and you're very rarely right, to be honest, and I'm always right, so, yeah. Yeah,
well, we'll watch this space. Moving on to the next day at Newcastle Arena, we have Lewis Ritson rehabilitating himself at 10 stone after a European title loss, which surprised people a little bit last year against Robbie Davies Jr. I think it's a shame, Barry, in a way, that Davies Jr. was European and British champion, having beaten Joe Hughes, controversially in the eyes of some, last time but one.
It was close. It was a close fight.
And it's a shame that this isn't an honest-to-goodness British and European title fight. I'm aware that he's vacating, Davies Jr. is vacating British light welterweight title. I know that because my mate Philip Bowes is going to be fighting for the vacant title. The European title, I'm not sure what's happened with the EBU title, but it's not on the line. And I believe this is a WBA eliminator of some kind.
Yeah, well, and I think that's just the way the sport's gone. I know we moan and complain about this all the time, and because it breaks your heart, but it is how it is. So these intercontinental and international titles get you up the ratings more than a European title, believe it or not, or even a British title. So that's just the way it works. And you want to pick up the titles, and I think you'd be more proud of they'd be more proud of what the pictures we see now with the straps on their shoulders, and they will the strap that they get now with that massive WBA international or whatever it is belts. Yeah, but it gives them close to a world title. It's an eliminator of such. Doesn't mean they get a straight shot at the title, but it means they're in the conversation for it. And it's a great fight. So this is another great fight where it's easy to argue for either one of the fighters for me.
Absolutely.
Quite simple to argue for either one who would get the win.
I mean, Ritson, it almost reminds one of how fickle the game can be and how unforgiving a mistress boxing can be in terms of luck and momentum. Yeah. I remember a post from you, might have been after the annihilation of Scotty Cardle or one of Ritson's impressive lightweight victories. I remember you saying he epitomised everything you like in a fighter coming up right now. That he's humble, he does it all inside the ring, he's exciting. Yeah. Instead of having that more kind of arguably Tyson Fury-esque branding of being not necessarily that scintillating inside the ropes, but very controversial and
it was more
outside of it.
It was more to do with guys who are not going to make the grade, but feel the need to sell themselves. Yeah. But without any substance. But the guy here who just thought, I have the substance, that will sell it for me.
And at the time you said that, it felt like he had the world at his feet. Then the loss in the European title fight, it can change the pecking order. It can change the affections of your promoter for your journey. Where arguably,
well, especially with someone like him who sells a lot of tickets and it's big, and they're building him on TV. All of a sudden he gets a loss. Yeah. And in this era, it's not the end of the world. In any era, of course, but in this era now, that loss takes a little bit of that shine and that momentum you're building.
So.
And the TV companies and pros are building this story about you, or especially someone like Ritson, who's a big puncher, was walking through people. This momentum that he's some sort of machine, and all of a sudden, then that gets stopped. And then how would you sell this now that this guy's unbeatable when he's been beat? I think that's what that happens. That you have to rebuild again.
What have you made of his couple of forays into the light welterweight division thus far?
Well, he's looked solid, but I think there's still questions to be asked, and this is the fight that's going to ask him. I think he's up against a guy here in Davis Jr. who's clever, can punch himself, gives you again similar. This is a similar sort of breakdown as to the world title fight. Will give you opportunities with Robbie Davis Jr. as well, because he wants you to feel a bit of his power. So sometimes he stands too close to the target. Yeah. And against someone like Ritson, that'll be a problem.
He's a switch hitter too, Robbie Davis Jr. Yeah. I think some fighters do it as a kind of fashion statement, and they don't do it well. I think very few fighters over the boxing history actually switch truly well and effectively, but he's not too bad at it.
He's pretty good at it. I think switching is doing it for necessity rather than just, I need to switch. Yeah. Some just do it for the sake of doing it.
Show off.
And sometimes they switch from southpaw to orthodox or the other way, and they're worse off for it. Yeah. What do you switch for? You're having so much success as being a left-hander. Now you switch the other way, and you're having less success. Yeah. But some people do it off without thinking. Yeah. Lee Selby and Andrew Selby, Andrew Selby just switches naturally. Sonny Edwards, they don't know what they're doing at the time. They just do things.
Yeah, it's like truly ambidextrous.
And Robbie's not quite that sort of fluency, but he switches. I think he thinks about switching. I think he thinks this is going to be a better line of attack or a better defensively. I think that's it. I think the hardest thing for Robbie Davis is, I think he's the more versatile of the two, for sure. Yeah. Is the jab of Ritson. That jab of Ritson is a solid shot. It's for me, it's the most dangerous punch because everything comes off that jab, and it's so solid, so heavy-handed that if it doesn't hurt you, if it's enough to push you off, if it doesn't hit you on the chin and wobble you, it hits you on the chest, it puts you off balance. Yeah. So it makes you can't attack off it. So what Robbie Davis wants to do is move around, feint, draw the jab of Ritson, and then fire off that. But in fact, with Ritson, he really commits to that jab and he leans over the front foot a little bit too much, but enough to get loads of length on that jab. Yeah. And what that does then is it just catches you, hits you off balance, and then if you're thinking to counter, you end up like this. and then Ritson comes in with a solid right hand.
Chin in the air.
Yeah, so that's worked for him so well. That jab, you've got to take away the jab of Ritson. If you take away his jab, he's more than beatable.
Sure.
But to do that is a very difficult thing to do.
Let's have a look at the prices. For the straight win, you've got Davies Jr. at evens, 6-5 with Ladbrokes, which is a bit of a better price, echoed by William Hill. Evens with Sky, MBet is 11-10, and so forth. Ritson, who you can see here, is a betting favourite with 8-11 from both Bet365 and Ladbrokes. William Hill are giving you 4-6. And you've got 5-6, which is a little bit better from Paddy Power Sport and also from Betfair. For the points win scenario with either fighter, we shall see. This is not a bad bet for Davies Jr. if you do fancy Davies Jr. with Ladbrokes 11-4, same with William Hill, or 5-2 with Sky Bet. Ritson on points, once again, is even better value there with 3-1s from most of the leading firms. The KO scenario, 7-2 Davies Jr., 15-8. See, they're not a million miles away from each other, those odds.
Right,
in each, for either side of the fence.
It reflects I think the 50-50 factor of this sort of fight. It really does for me.
I was there when catastrophe struck back in 2017 for Davies Jr. against a tough Polish fighter whose surname, whether it escapes me or not, I'm not sure I can pronounce it from memory, and he was KO'd. Yeah, exactly. And the knockout victory, you know, against the run of traffic in that fight. Do you feel he's the more vulnerable one of the two?
Possibly, but I think that fight's done him a favour.
Sure.
I think because he was taking more risks.
Yeah.
Because he felt invincible, maybe.
Yeah.
And so I don't think he destroyed his career because he's come back and won a European title since then. So
I think it's very much what it does to a fighter's psyche, that kind of loss, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, really is. And again, it's that momentum building. Is the Ritson loss, who really was really a train going forward. I know his loss was on points, but did that loss affect him more? Thinking, well, all of a sudden I can't walk through people. Yeah. And I think he's
you know what? It's funny you say that. There's two ways your psyche and your kind of sense of identity of a fighter can get damaged or flipped on its head. One is by getting knocked out, obviously. I think we can all relate to why that's a bad idea. Not that it ever happened to me, of course. But sometimes when you're not knocking people out anymore, when you move up in class, like a Keith Thurman scenario. I remember when Tommy Hearns went through that kind of slightly strange time in his career, Murray Sutherland kind of era, before the sensational KO against Duran, when he wasn't knocking people out. He had right-hand problems, as many punchers and light-hitting boxers often do. And somebody said it was somebody in Thomas Hearns' life as in a kind of counselling role or a psychologist or a doctor. And he said it's almost like his entire identity is wrapped up with how hard he can punch with that right hand. So you raise a valid point.
I think no, and if you're starting to second guess yourself, then you're not committed to what you're doing. And I think that, and then you're not going with the same intensity into your work, and that can be a problem. But I think they both rebounded quite well from their defeats. But I think Robbie Davies Jr. for me, I think I fancy him.
So you're going to pick Robbie Davies Jr. That's where your money going, where your mouth is on this occasion.
Again, it's a hard pick. Again, another one. But I just fancy him to come through a bit of a torrid time. I think he will somehow take away the jab of Ritson. Yeah.
And that's the key for the fight.
I really wouldn't be shocked if Ritson sort of somehow just wore him down with that jab and got him sort of late. But I think Davies Jr. will have some real rocky moments and real panic in his work. And I think his corner will play a massive part in rallying him and maybe doing whatever they can to inspire him. But I think it's somewhere somehow, and the fact that he is boxing at home. Away from home, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say
that
very much away from home.
That he'll have that little bit of maybe that chip on his shoulder that he'll need to push him through.
Can sometimes be an advantage. An interesting point. It won't astonish you to learn I'm going the other way, and I'm picking Ritson to end the fight inside the distance at some point. I'm not going with any specific scenarios. When I talk about that, I would like to stress, I think straight round betting is like roulette. I'm not a big gambler, I must admit, but I think about the odds a lot in terms of predictions, and I know many fans on the Facebook page are very into having a flutter every weekend. But I think round group betting, like such and such in round 7, is a silly way to do it. I think round group betting, if you want to focus on specifics, half of the fight, a third of the fight.
You can see a fighter wearing a guy down after so many rounds, but yeah.
But with this one, I'm not going with any of the scenarios. I'm going for the straight stoppage for Lewis Ritson. So I quite like the way we're in opposite corners on this. We're not doing this deliberately. It's not contrived. We naturally disagree about everything so far.
I think there's just a natural disdain for each other, or certainly from my part, to you.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of yours at all. So
no,
whatever you say,
that,
I'll go the other way, to be honest, and be happy to do so.
You've always made these hard-hitting remarks, you know, and there's no pun intended whatsoever.
That's right. I know. I couldn't punch, but you know, how many world titles have you won? And we move on.
Okay, we can cut that bit later, I imagine, right? Barry, we couldn't be sitting here today enjoying this good-natured banter without the very valuable help of this wonderful organisation, Buy My Fight. We have Westbound Logistics as well, who have come on board, which is fantastic. But I want to say a few words about Buy My Fight, because what they do essentially is they help professional boxers sell tickets. They help them build a fan base, they help them streamline their marketing activities, and they provide them an online location where anybody from your best friends, family members, to friends of friends and people who are peripherally interested in boxing can go to buy your fight. So somebody, even on a massive show like an Anthony Joshua situation, if they wanted to buy tickets, specifically that revenue go to an undercard fighter, they don't know that guy, but they want to put their allegiance behind him. As long as that guy's signed up to Buy My Fight, they can do it.
It's fantastic. I wish it was wrong when I was fighting, because even though
they're not miracle workers, Barry. They're an online facility.
Of course, but even I sold lots of tickets as I went. So I had to sell tickets. I had to go around and leave posters and tickets in, ironically, barbers, post offices, pubs, all around Cardiff, and that's all you have to do. So I think that's something like this. If you can just say, listen, if you go here if you want to buy tickets, and just put a poster up and there's something directed to, then it makes it so much easier for the fighters who haven't got to stress about making weight and about training for the fight. And that's a stress about going out and have to sell tickets taken away from them, and it helps them. It helps their development.
Obviously, social media naturally has helped fighters market themselves better, because they've all got their own platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and whatnot. But I think something. An organised activity in that same vein is long overdue. We will talk about them more in the coming weeks, but I'm very proud to have them on board. Except for a betting firm, which we would love to attract, I can't think of a better sponsorship partner for this show early doors. Moving on to our final fight scenario of the weekend. On the same bill up in Newcastle, we have Scott Fitzgerald and Ted Cheeseman.
Good fight. Another good fight, really is. And you got Fitzgerald literally that war with Anthony Fowler.
What a fight that was!
Into what's going to be another war with Ted Cheeseman, because Ted Cheeseman doesn't know anything
except go forward.
Fighting.
Do you know what, Barry? I've seen this kid in the gym since he was about 16, because he boxed for Fisher in.
Yeah, I saw him in amateur a few times.
Yeah, this is why we're where we are, and we're credible, because we go behind. We didn't just see these guys last week. Got a bit of a backstory. I remember seeing him spar a few times at the old TKO gym in Canning Town, and I thought he was a big talent back then, and lots of people were raving about this 16-year-old kid called Cheeseman who was going to do big things, and they weren't entirely wrong. But I feel he's become less sophisticated and has less flair as he's gone on. As a pro, he appears to, and I don't know how much this has to do with the coaching ethos and everything else, but they appear to focus on him being this juggernaut that just walked through everything. And as was proven in the fight against Sergio Garcia, you can't always do that to everybody.
No, you can't, and I don't think Garcia is that good a fighter. I think Garcia is a decent fighter. He's not rubbish, I'm not saying that, but I don't think they were talking about Garcia as being world level, and I don't think he is.
No.
I think he's European, a good European level, but I don't think he's world level. So. And there's nothing wrong with being European level, just below that. But
nothing wrong with being domestic level.
No, of course it's not. It's a fantastic achievement. But I mean, for Cheeseman to think he could walk through everyone, again, that might be a fight where it's helping wake up and he's got to adapt, or a fight where he realises his limitations and then he doesn't go into every fight as committed as he should. That's the worry. Because this fight here against Fitzgerald, he has to be on Fitzgerald constantly. It's got to be a war of attrition.
Fitzgerald is a pressure fighter of sorts. So he's what you call a box fighter, for people who understand that term. But he can use the ring and get on his bike a bit if he needs to, in a way that Cheeseman just isn't.
And he'll need
to do it.
I think in the early rounds, because Cheeseman will come out the gate Well, like he has to, let's be honest. I think now his sort of style set, he can adapt it a little bit, but if all of a sudden Cheeseman starts getting up on his toes and dancing round, then Fitzgerald's would be all on him. I think you don't want that. He wants to put Fitzgerald under pressure, but not so much. He has to just be a little bit more cute and clever in how he mounts his attacks. If he goes in straight lines, then that's no good. If he leans over his front foot and fights with his face like he has in the past, then he takes too many punches off Fitzgerald, and then he's looking to get worn down and stopped. So he has to be a little bit more, understanding about pressure's good, but educated pressure is what you need to win a fight at this level.
Absolutely, and when you look at career momentum, never mind the resounding loss to Garcia for the European title, which he wasn't supposed to lose.
No.
You had that draw with Kieran Conway last time out, which some people might have seen that as making hard work out of an assignment that should have seen you do what you needed to do on that night.
But again, though, I think it all points to that what I said earlier about is the fact that now he hasn't been able to walk through Garcia.
Yeah.
Then he's second guessing himself.
Yeah.
About what his strengths really are.
Do you learn
and going through the motions? Well, some people don't learn from fights,
from losses. Instead, they pick up.
They just
baggage.
train harder. They got to just train harder for this fight, and that's not. It's training hard and training smart.
Yeah.
You have to be super fit. That's a given for every fighter.
Yeah.
But you have to train smart. You don't not train on your strengths, but you have to train on your weaknesses. But you don't give away what you're good at. Yeah. You start to hone and try and get better at what you're not good at. It's a fine mix. It's not as simple as what people think. But ultimately, he has to move his head more. That's with Cheeseman,
sure.
obvious. Move his head more coming forward, different angles of attacks. And for me, that's what Fitzgerald does better. He can feint coming forward. He rolls his shoulders a little bit. He can be caught.
So you fancy him for the precise reasons why I fancied Vorjik over Beterbiev.
Yes, yeah.
It's just a little bit of a reverse scenario with our prognostications on this particular fight. Let's have a look at the prices, Barry. The straight win for Cheeseman. Remember the glasses here. I probably could read that without glasses, but
no, I don't think
I'm in my comfort zone now at this point. Cheeseman for the straight win is 2-1, which isn't bad value. Ted is not necessarily done yet. We're not writing his obituary, and for anyone who is Team Cheeseman, it's not a bad bet. You can see Fitzgerald is the favourite with 4-11, Bet365, 2-5 Ladbrokes, 4-11 again with William Hill, and so on. MBet like these 100 odds, don't they? Could somebody who does understand betting odds better than we do at this stage, feel free to write in and explain to us, tweet us when we have a Twitter account set up, all the rest of it. Yeah, on the points scenario, we will have Cheeseman is 7-2 on points. Fitzgerald is 6-5. So it's just a shorter price on Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I happen to think this one will go the distance. That's what I believe. If it doesn't, let's have a look at the KO scenarios, betting wise. Cheeseman 7-1 for the KO. You know what? It's a lovely price if you think Ted's going to win the fight and he's going to grind him down, which he can do.
And I think he could. I think if he can draw Fitzgerald into a war. Yeah. Which is quite,
it's a cracking price, isn't it?
Drawing Fitzgerald into a war is not the hardest thing to do.
No, because he had that fantastic war with Fowler, and he got the gut check in the 9th round when Fowler really turned it on, and it looked like he was all at sea.
And he can punch himself, so he'll fancy it.
Yeah,
he'll fancy he can stop Cheeseman. If Cheeseman will fancy he can stop him.
What impressed me was the way he turned it around against Fowler in the last round and sealed it with that last round knockdown. It was a last round knockdown, if memory serves.
So I think if Cheeseman can draw him in really early, then I think, of course he can knock him out. Because if Cheeseman got you hurt, he's not going to let you off the hook, that's for sure. But ultimately, I just think that Fitzgerald is a little bit of a smarter fighter of the two.
So I think we're in danger of agreeing on this kind of denouement section. I think he is the more versatile guy. I think it will be something of a war. It will have technical moments. It's not going to be a chess match. I think it will be a war. It will be a torrid affair. And I think it will go 12 rounds, and I think Fitzgerald will have his hands held up at the end of that fight.
I do. I think it goes a distance. I think they both come away with plenty of lumps and bumps and bruises from it, and both go through rocky moments. But I think ultimately, Fitzgerald, because of more versatility, he comes away with the win.
So we actually agree on that because you're going with points as well, yeah?
I got to say, for the first show, having 3 evenly matched fights.
It's fantastic because, don't get me wrong, I've done this before with Tip TV years ago, and sometimes it was a bit of a joke when you got these kind of 6 to 100 shots, you know what I mean? Because that does happen, you know, but that's where our personality, charisma, good looks comes in, you know, as another selling point for the show on weeks when things are a little bit, the pickings are a bit lean. Barry, getting to the rep, I want to close this out with the accumulator scenario. I don't really believe in accumulators. I think you're better with single bets if you really want to make money and you want to take the bookies to the cleaners purely in a boxing context. That's my belief. But for the sake of a bit of fun and this continued competition between yourself and me, my accumulator for this week is Vorjik and Ritson by KO. It just simply inside the distance in that scenario. And Fitzgerald on points. That pays 14 to 1 with Skybet. Doesn't take a genius to work out. A tenner will get you 150 quid back.
I'm Baturbia late stoppage.
Yes.
And then the next 2 then on points.
The next 2 then on points that you pick.
And Fitzgerald on points,
We shall stand and be counted when we sit in these chairs next week.
I asked specifically not to be stood up.
Yeah. You must have been stood up.
I felt like being the shortest man in the room.
Yeah, you must have been stood up on previous occasions, and don't even go anywhere near Tinder, is my advice. Listen, I know you're a happily married man, and I do actually have enormous respect and affection for you behind all this posturing. I know with you, the animosity is real. I don't have a problem with that. But on a serious note, Barry, I don't feel as if I can close this show out without making mention of the tragic news that light middleweight Patrick Day passed away yesterday. After 4 days after losing his fight on the Usyk with the Spoon undercard in Chicago, the tributes are flowing in all over social media, and I'd just like to say on behalf of yourself and me and the show that our sincere condolences are with his family, friends, and even his opponent, Charles Conwell. Thank you for watching this first episode of FightLine. We'll be back next week with more fearless prognostications and betting tips. In the meantime, be lucky and keep punching.